Another day, another dollar. Thank the Lord for another 24. God, I knew that was you. Just get back to the crib, bang, gym day. Just finished up grocery shopping, man. Finna go back into working here in a little bit. Quick correctional officer video. I'm talking about the difference between a county jail and a prison. You know, whether it's state or federal prison versus a county jail or a federal county jail. You know, I've worked at both of them in my career, so I'm going to give y'all the spiel on the differences between each institution, you know, and this may help you decide if you want to go the county jail route versus the prison route. You know, I started in West Virginia at a county jail. I did 2 years there, and I'm going on year 11 working with the BOP, the Bureau of Prisons. I've been at 2 different federal prisons. You know, the biggest difference as far as a jail versus a prison, a county jail, you typically have inmates sitting there that are pre-trial. They haven't been sentenced yet, you know. So you may have inmates sitting there from your typical, you know, weekend warrior that got a DUI. You know, they're in there in the holding tank over the weekend. Or you may have somebody in there for like domestic violence. You may have somebody in there on shoplifting. Then you may have people in there for more serious charges, you know, burglary, robbery, murder. You know, everybody goes to county jail before they get sentenced and sent to prison, you know, or if they're not getting sentenced, you know, they got like a minor offense, the judge decides to let them out. You know what I'm saying? The county jail, typically, you're going to see a lot more action, I feel, on a day-to-day basis as well, just because you have people in there from all walks of life. You may have people in there that have never been to prison or jail before, and you commingle with them with people, you know, that may have been in and out of prison and jail all of their life, you know, so you're bound to have more fights, you know, just because of the simple fact you got people in there, they've never done time, so they don't know how to do time. You know, they may do things, you know, like hop in front of the line when people are lined up to get their tray, or skip somebody that's waiting to use the phone to call their family on the outside, you know. When I worked at the county jail too, I remember it was a lot more hands-on. We did everything for the inmates. You know, correctional officers working in the county jail, everything is hands-on. You know, we go in there, we have to pass out the trays individually, you know. We bring a food cart, you push the food cart up the hallway, and you working your pod. You know, you may have different units within your pod. You go to each unit individually, the inmates line up. You know, you got to stand there. You got to hand on the tray. Boom. The next one come. Boom. You got to hand on the tray. You got to make sure, you know, especially if you're a rookie officer, you know, they'll try to cheat you or beat you out of a tray. An inmate that's been in for a while, you know, they're trying to work the system. They may hop back in line real quick and get another tray. You know, I used to hate when they did that shit. They got me a couple times when I first started working at the county jail, you know, the last inmate come up like, CO, I didn't get my tray. I'm looking around like, damn, you know, the first couple times I called down to the kitchen and was like, can y'all send me another tray? And I got fed up. You know, once I figured out what was going on, I was like, okay, bet, I got something for y'all asses. I made all the inmates line up on the wall with their tray. I said, hey, everybody, get your asses on the wall, you know, and have your tray in your hand, you know, and the tray magically appeared. You know, it was sitting right there on the table. I say, hey, go get your tray. There you go, boom. You know, so everything in the county jail is hands-on. You got to escort the inmates up and down the hallway, you know, the rec yard, you know, the gymnasium, none of that's on the unit. It's just usually their cells, the showers, the phones, and the TV. So when they go to rec or they go, you know, to the gym or something like that, indoor, play basketball, I remember when I worked at the county jail, you know, we had to do each unit individually, right? So you go in there, open the door, you announce it, rec move. Whoever want to go, boom, they come up, they come outside in the hallway. You got to line them all up. You have to pat them all down. You know, then they have to walk in a single file line on the right side of the hallway, and you're on the left behind the whole line. You got to escort them to the gym, or if it's their outdoor rec. You know, the rec cages, they were like kind of like enclosed. You know, it's like an enclosed rec area, and it has like the barbed wire fence over top of it, you know, so they can't climb up or try to escape or anything like that. We had a gymnasium, at my jail I worked at, where they can go in there and play basketball. They get like an hour of rec or the gym if it's their day or time to go. Then I remember you had to escort the inmates back and forth, when it's time for them to go to the kitchen, to work. They need to go to the supervisor, the sergeant's office for any kind of thing. When it's time for them to go to education, if they had an attorney coming in or visit, from their family members, we had to escort them back and forth, so everything is hands-on, you know what I'm saying? Then you got to deal with, the inmates. Like I said, most inmates that are in the county jail are pre-trial, so they're going back and forth to court, you know what I'm saying? So us as correctional officers, it's either us escorting them, or if you work at a federal county jail, maybe the U.S. Marshals escorting these inmates. I remember, you have inmates constantly getting picked up and dropped off. Somebody come in fresh off the street, the police are going to drop them off, and they have to go through booking, get processed in through intake, and then they get assigned to the unit, whether they're in a misdemeanor unit or they're in a felony unit. You know what I'm saying? What else? Two, I seen this when I worked at the county jail. Just because everybody is pre-trial, doesn't mean you're going to have people, that are already sentenced that are not going to be there. Due to the overcrowding that was at the prisons in the state when I was in West Virginia, we had a lot of people that were already sentenced, to do their time in prison on felony charges. Some of them, they had been at the county jail for like 3-4 years. That was just due to, like I said, overcrowding and the prisons not having bed space. So you have to factor that in as well. You're going to be dealing with not only pretrial inmates, you may be dealing with convicted, sentenced inmates, So they're just waiting to go to prison. Or some of them, they may do their whole time at the county jail. It just depends on how all of it falls down, how the cards fall. On the flip side of things, a prison, when you go to a prison to work, everybody in a prison is already sentenced. They already went to court. The judge has sentenced them. Now they've been shipped off to whatever prison they've been assigned to or designated to go do their time at. So everybody there has already had their sentence. Most inmates are just doing their time, trying to go home, and it's like me comparing the county jail to the prison. I feel like it's less work, In my case, it was like I'm doing less work at the prison level, federal prison, and I'm getting paid more money. The thing with the prison is, the housing units may be laid out the same, but it's like an open concept, as far as how the prison is ran, the structure of the prison. So you got the yard, that's outside of the unit. As far as when you work inside of a prison, most of the time, it's a little more hands-off. When the inmates go eat, all you have to do really is just unlock your door and you just stand there and monitor the movement. The inmates, they just go and they walk down to the chow hall or the cafeteria, wherever it's at in your prison. When it's time for them to go to rec, education move, they have to go to their work assignment. They have a medical appointment, any type of thing. Most of the time, you just let them go. It's like the yard is open. You'll see, I had to get used to this when I went from the county jail to the federal prison. It's like on the move, you could be standing in the middle of the yard and you got inmates going every which direction. They have like 10 minutes to make the move wherever they're trying to be. It's usually like an outbound move where the inmates go out to wherever they need to be. They got 5 minutes, and then it's an inbound move wherever they were at. If they're trying to come back to the unit, they have 5 minutes to make the move to get back to the unit. So it's a little more of an open concept. I feel like less drama goes down compared to a county jail, but don't get it twisted. Stuff still happens, at the state prison. You're going to have your fights. You're going to have prison's going to be prison, jail's going to be jail at the end of the day. You're going to have inmates getting high, fights. You may have an inmate get stabbed, get jumped by some other inmates. You have your fair share of problems at every institution. No institution is perfect. It's always going to be issues. It's always going to be some type of drama. I feel like anything can happen at any institution at any time. It doesn't matter, whether it's a camp or all the way up, all the way turned up, a maximum security, penitentiary, active gang yard. You got a lot of gang activity, a lot of politics, a lot of violence and homicides at that prison. I've seen it all. I've seen at the county jail, inmate get beat to death. The prison I'm at now, the federal prison I'm at now is considered one of the cushiest federal prisons in the federal prison system. But in the past 6 to 8 years, we've had like 3 or 4 homicides there. Cellie beat their inmate to death in the cell overnight, So that's the type of stuff that's supposed to go down at a high security prison. But I say that to make this point. It can happen anywhere. It doesn't matter what custody level. You know what I'm saying? In the prison I'm at now too, it's considered a complex, meaning it's a federal prison, but there's 4 different prisons in one. You know what I'm saying? There's 2 medium security prisons, a low security prison, and there's a medical center. So I'm assigned to the medical center. The medical center to me kind of runs and operates like a county jail, but it's a little different in the sense that all of the inmates there are sentenced, But a lot of the inmates from the federal prisons around the nation, they come to this particular prison, the medical center I'm at, because there's only like, I want to say 5 or 6 medical centers nationwide. And the one that I work at, we happen to have the only cancer treatment center in the BOP. It's either that or oncology. I can't remember what health department it is. They do dialysis at the prison I'm at. They do cancer treatment, radiation treatment. Inmates that they playing basketball in the rec yard and break their leg and they have to rehab. They come to my prison. You got inmates there with cancer that are terminally ill. It's a lot of death as far as inmates being sick and old and they dying off. That happens often at my prison. But I feel like it runs kind of like a county jail just because it's a high rise. It's all enclosed. You have what we call corridors. It's like hallways. The inmates go up and down. The only difference between the federal medical center I'm at versus the county jail is that we typically don't have to escort the inmates up and down the hallway. When it's a move going on, they have 10 minutes to get to wherever they have to be, And this is a new thing I had to get used to too as well when I transferred to this prison. We have elevators, The county jail I worked at was all on one floor. We didn't have elevators. But I see a lot of county jails nationwide. They may be like high rises. If it's like in a metropolitan area, it may be like an office type building, 10 stories, and it may have elevators, So when stuff goes down, like in a fight, emergency, instead of you running across the yard, if you worked at a prison to get to the unit, you're going to be running and hopping on the elevator. When something goes down at the prison I'm at, it's 5 stories. Something go down, it'd be like 10, 15 staff members on the elevator. We trying to hurry up, get on the elevator, and race up there to whatever floor is going on. We got, 5 different floors, like I said. One floor is like for rehab. The other floor is like for cancer. The other floor I kind of call like the green map. That's where like all the sick, older inmates that die a lot get sent to. Then we have a mental health. We have a whole another part of the medical center that's all mental health lockups, the worst of the worst when it comes to mental health. Then we have a worker unit, it's called cadre. That's why I've been working on that unit for like the past 5 years, So which one is better, a jail or a prison? Me personally, I feel like the prison is better, for me, just because, like I said, I feel like I do less work, and I get paid more money compared to when I worked at the county jail. It was a little more hands-on. So I prefer to work at the prison, having done both. But as far as you trying to make that choice, you have to factor in everything. You have to factor in your proximity, what city or state you're in, whether you want to be mobile or you set on living in the area of your hometown, So let's say, for instance, you may be in a city like, I don't know, out here, Durham, North Carolina, or you like Memphis, Tennessee. You may have the option to do both. You know what I'm saying? Just because the city downtown is probably going to have the county jail. A lot of times the county jails are situated close to downtown just because that's where the courthouse is. So like I said, you have the inmates get transported back and forth to court when they in a jail because they're pre-trial and they're fighting, going through their case before they get sentenced, So like I said, if you live in a bigger city, you may have the luxury of being able to choose if you want to do the county jail or you want to go work at a prison. It may be like on the outskirts of the town. If you live somewhere in the middle of nowhere, like middle of nowhere, West Virginia or Kentucky, you may just be limited to a prison. Most prisons are typically situated, like out in the country, out in the outskirts. My last prison I worked at, my federal prison when I was living in West Virginia, it looked literally like they blew a hole in the mountains and they put that prison there. It was like in the middle of nowhere. Like I lived in Beckley, West Virginia. The federal prison was like an hour and 10 minutes, from where I lived at. I remember when I first started, we had van pools where we would meet the co-workers, all the staff members that lived in that area. We would meet like at the local Walmart, park our cars, and we would ride the vans down there, to the prison. We would just chip in gas, to fill the vans up. But when I first started, I didn't know anybody. I was a rookie. So I was driving my personal car, the first few weeks. And it's like, I'm going up through the mountains, no phone service. It's like one lane going up, one lane going back. And it's like easy to get lost. I got lost my first week when I worked at that prison, man. And it was like, it took me like an hour out the way. I made a wrong turn. Y'all remember that movie, Wrong Turn? I literally made a wrong turn. Like I said, you up in the mountains, no phone service, so I couldn't use my GPS. And I'm like, that was my first week. So I'm still getting used to the route going home and going to the prison. Man, I took a wrong turn. That shit took me like an hour out the way. I'm driving, right? I'm thinking I'm doing good. Then I see a coal mine to the left. I'm like, man, I don't remember seeing no damn coal mine. I'm like, man, I was like, let me go ahead and just turn around and backtrack for I'm in West Virginia. I end up on the back end of Kentucky, somewhere crazy. It took me like 2 hours out the way. It took me like 2 hours to get to home that day, man. I was like, damn. But it was a lesson learned, So you got to factor in, where you at, as far as your proximity to these institutions. Like I said, you may have the luxury of being able to work, choose a county jail or the prison, or if you live in the middle of nowhere, it may not be a lot of work or a lot of institutions in your area, so you may have to just go the prison route. Or if you're willing to be mobile and pack your stuff and, go to another area, move to a different state, the sky's the limit, especially in this day and age. If you're willing to transfer, be mobile, move around, man, you can shoot up fast as far as promoting throughout your career, especially in the Bureau of Prisons, the federal prison system. If you're willing to transfer to different institutions and hop around, that's what a lot of people do, that have higher career aspirations. It won't be nothing for you to start off as an officer. In 10, 15 years, you be a warden somewhere. You know what I'm saying? That's how people jump that fast in the prison, the federal prison system, So you have to factor in everything before you make your choice. You may want to see a little more action. So you may want to go the county jail route. You may like being more hands-on with the inmates. I felt like it was some good correctional officer training, working at the county jail. I learned some good correctional officers, sound practices, stuff like good pat searches, escorting the inmates up the hallway, making sure you stay behind them, stuff like that. The defensive tactics they taught us in the academy. I felt like it was pretty good training. I just, like I said, me personally, I just prefer the prison because it's a little more laid back. Like I say, though, stuff happens, though. There's been a lot going on at my prison here lately. We got a big drug problem at the prison I'm at. A lot of inmates are getting high like almost every day on this. They got a new strain of drug, like it's like a K2 synthetic drug they're getting in. It's like they're getting high off this shit every day. And it's like an epidemic, man, Then you got your typical run-of-the-mill stuff, you occasional fight, stuff like that, staff assault here and there, mental health inmates start tripping, Like I say, at the end of the day, prison's going to be prison. It's going to, it's not going to always be a smooth ride. Stuff is always going to happen no matter what custody, no matter what institution you decide to go to. It's always going to be something going on. Some institutions may have a little more going on than others, but at some point, something's going to go down. You're not dealing with the best of society when it comes to the people we work with, as far as the inmates, so you got to factor all that in, look at the proximity, look at, you want to be a little more hands-on, or you want to go to a prison where it's like a little more laid back, you're going to be dealing with a little more unpredictable situations, when you work at the county jail, just because you have people coming in that the police are bringing in off the street They may be intoxicated. They may be high out their mind still, drunk and rowdy from the club. They want to fight. I remember plenty of times when I worked at the county jail, you know, the sergeant, he on shift, he would be like, he would get a call like 5 different people on the radio, me and Book in the intake where the police bring the inmates in the back of the jail. You know, we got to do a welcome party. When he said welcome party, that means basically the police is bringing in somebody that's rowdy as hell. You know, the police even had to fight them, you know, so we got to go out there with gloves on and grab their ass and bring them in, you know, by force, you know, because they out there wilding out, tripping. You know, we may have to put them in a holding cell so they can calm down and gain their composure. You know, it was all kind of stuff going on at the county jail. I liked my 2 years I was there, though. You know, I met some good people. You know, like I said, I learned some good correctional practices, you know, that I still use to this day in my career. You know, I don't ever, no matter where you go, and then if you decide to transfer to another institution, if you have some good training at your previous institution, you know, always take that with you. Even if the institution you transfer to or you get on that, if it's another facility, another agency, even if they do things a little bit differently, you know, always take your prior training with you, because you never know when you may have to use that or when it could come in handy. You know what I'm saying? Y'all like this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel at The Ghetto Bodybuilder. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok at The Ghetto Bodybuilder. I have merchandise for sale on my website. Shop with me, www.theghettobodybuilder.com, man. But yeah, y'all got any comments, questions, y'all got any future ideas or topics on videos y'all may want me to do when it pertains to corrections, drop a comment in the comment box and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Y'all know how we coming. Let's get motivated. Boop!